Hi everyone, can you guys all hear me? This is JJ Riskas from UBX Academy, and let's wait to see how many people are joining before we start with today's presentation. Okay, let's see. Let me go get in the meantime my... Okay, great. So we are right now going live, guys, on YouTube and maybe on LinkedIn as well, and for sure on Facebook. So wherever you are joining, please say hi. What cities are you joining from? Just let us know what cities, what city do you live in? And hey, hi Pablo. Let us know what are your cities, and we're gonna start in a few more minutes. So right now we're just warming up and waiting for people. And don't forget that this event is going to also be recorded, so that later you can replay it in case you arrived late or you want to check all the techniques that we will go through today. And if you have more people that you think it's going to be useful for, just go ahead and spread the knowledge, please. Okay. Nice. I see people there that they are joining. Hey, everyone. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Good to see you guys. Okay. So let's give one more minute to all those people that are joining. Like I said, once you join, please let us know what city are you joining from, what part in the planet are you joining from, and let's get ready to rumble. Okay, in the meantime, let me prep my presentation. Here it is. Cool. Nice. Okay. If you want to also reshare in your own Facebook profile or YouTube account, more than happy to answer all the questions from your friends and family as well. So let's start, guys. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Here it is. Okay, okay. Now I know why it was not working. Okay, perfect. Let me know, guys, when you can see my screen, and you should be able to see my screen now. Let's see. Perfect. Nice. It should be loading. And there you go. Perfect. So let's start. Like I said, anyone who has questions, just you can pop up the questions on the chat on the chat that you will see, whether it's on Facebook, on YouTube, or if you're joining through StreamYard, you can go ahead. And I will be asking you questions as well. So this is not a monologue. This is a conversation. So let's get ready to rumble, guys. Now let's see if you're joining right now, just let us know what part of the planet are you joining from. So let's start. Improve your learning skills. Subtitle, Own Your Personal Growth. Yes, and we will go through why it's that personal growth is on your agency this time through learning skills. So let's go from the basics. How many of you guys have heard phrases like this, or maybe you even told these phrases in the past? I always wanted to learn, fill in the blanks, right? Or another one is, when I have time, money, age enough, I will learn too, and the topic that you want. I cannot understand how to, the topic that you're having problems understanding. Oh, I am not good at, whether it is math, history, names, memory, whatever, right? How many of you have had common phrases like this, guys? Let me know. Another one is, I don't have a good memory. Oh, right. It's because I always forget stuff, so I must not have a good memory. That's a very common one. And well, all of us had at some point said one of these phrases. And these are phrases that are constantly heard among people in any level of education, even from kids to grown-ups. But we will cover and we will review how these phrases are myths. Okay? Now let's keep moving on. So I also had those kind of questions before. I also had them. So once I started thinking, with so much information, I would like to start learning more proactively, but where can I start? There are so many things that I will learn to learn. Well, this question, where can I start learning, is in other words rephrased as how to improve my learning skills. Obviously, we don't say that question yet, but the curiosity of where can I start learning, that is what kicks everything rolling. Okay, that's what gets everything rolling. And in my case, after I posed this question, things changed with me. And there was only one promise that changed everything. And that was never finish a day without learning at least something new for 10 minutes. So that's it. 10 minutes to learn something new per day. That was it. If you don't have 10 minutes, some people say that you don't even have a life, right? And well, with so many topics that I was curious about, at least I had a starting point that I was 10 minutes per day. But how to address them all, right? So I decided to add something else to this promise, and that was I will dedicate a full month to each topic that I want to learn. And if you think about it, 10 minutes per day in 1 month is around five hours per month. If you learn something that you ended up realizing that you did not like, well, it was only 5 hours. It's like 2 movies, right? That you wasted your time on. But if it was something that you liked, I bet and I promise that 5 minutes was going to be the least that you will spend on that topic. Are you following me? So far, are you guys with me? Just let me know in the comments, please. You guys are following my story. Now, how did it go? Well, I started with one topic, running. And yes, at that time I didn't know how to run. Well, I had run before, but not the way that I wanted to run for a 10K. And that topic that started on March 2015 actually turned into more and more and more topics. You can see here all my post-its there, which later turned into more topics, which later turned, guess what, into more and more topics. Okay, so that is how I've been spending my last 5-6 years so far, not even missing one single day without something new learned. But now let's keep moving on. Who am I? Well, my name is JJ Riscas, and even though I am considered a tech evangelist, I am a biohacker and the co-founder of UBX Academy, you can scratch that all right now. And actually, let's talk deep stuff, okay? And that means I am a curiosity-driven human. I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm a Kaizen advocate. Curiosity, learning, Kaizen. Those three things or three attributes are the ones that define me. And we will go through them during this presentation, okay? So any questions so far? Any comments? Are we all good, guys? Okay, let me see chat. Okay, let's keep moving on. Now, let's talk about traditional education, my arch enemy. So what is traditional education or formal education? In the words of Ken Robinson, well, this graph by Ken Robinson, Sir Ken Robinson, he talks about how traditional education is based on some old formal model of industrialization, where we treat students the way that we treat products. And we are supposed to get them all standardized on this pipeline that takes kids from very young ages to middle age till they are 16, 17, I guess. And they are all going through the same process to indoctrinize them with ways of learning, even though it's not called like that. We all go through the same standards of education. We're tested the same way. We are given the same information at the same pace. Nevertheless, every single human is unique. Okay. And you can even remember when you were a kid and you had to be dragged into the classroom when you were falling asleep at 8 a.m. in the morning or 9 a.m., right? And usually used to get alert later, but that was already mid-class probably. At least that happened to me. So industrialization applied to education, that is what got us into the problem that we are facing right now. And the problem is that as a society, we don't know other ways to learn or even better ways to learn. You were lucky if this industrialized system worked for you. But if you were not lucky, then we were all screwed. This is an error, okay? So what happens is that even though most of the societies nowadays have this model, there are a few outliers. And those outliers are people who learned how they better learned themselves and dove deeper into that practice, okay? Let's throw some examples about it. You may know Brian May, musician from the band Queen, right? He's also an author and an astrophysicist. Yes, PhD in astrophysics. On the middle, we have Richard Feynman. For many people, he was considered the best explainer of all times. He was a Nobel-prized theoretical physicist, a painter, and a Brazilian carnival performer. Yeah, obviously he spoke Brazilian fluently, and he was also in Japan. As far as I know, he spoke Japanese very well. A book that I would recommend is You Must Be Joking, Mr. Feynman. It's one of his autobiographies where it describes all his adventures on learning. That's a fascinating book. And lastly, we have Marie Curie, physicist, chemist, the first woman to be admitted to be a professor at Paris University in France, and also the first person to win a Nobel Prize in 2 different categories, in chemistry and physics. These people, even though they may have gone through traditional educational systems, they are outliers because they decided to learn themselves and teach themselves better ways to learn. So far, we're good? Okay. And they may be considered jack of all trades. Here in the US, there is this saying, jack of all trades, master of none. And that means that if you try to pick on many things, maybe you were not good at any of them. Nevertheless, here in UBX Academy, and based on my own experience, I can tell you this. The new saying is, jack of all trades, master of learning. And that makes you something called a polymath. The people that we just saw their lives a few minutes ago, they are polymaths, people that are very good in different expertise realms or in different industries or learning different topics, okay? And so this is where it all starts, guys. There are ways to learn, and we can find those ones. Now, just to finalize with traditional education and my rant on it, let's go to talk about some myths about education. First of all, there's this myth that you need money. Well, that may have been an excuse 2-3 decades ago, but nowadays, if you have a cell phone on your hand and you have access to Google, that means that you are able to ask any question that you would like to learn about, right? So money is not an excuse right now. The next one is teachers. Obviously, we need people that are far ahead in the same path that we're starting to walk to help us accelerate that so that we're not reinventing the wheel, correct? But teachers nowadays, they don't necessarily need to come from a physical background. We don't need to get them here, which takes me to the next point. Place. In traditional education, we need to move, to go, to take ourselves to a place, a classroom where there is a teacher and we're going to learn just one way, which is most likely with a whiteboard and this guy lecturing you. Okay, not talking about bad about teachers or professors, by the way. We will talk about this in a second. Another myth is that you need to get a degree. Well, yes, for some industries you need a degree. For some professions, as a doctor, for example, you want a doctor that has a credential, has a degree. But for other ones, other new careers that are emerging thanks to technology and its advance, then having a degree is not really needed, because sometimes people are starting to combine their own crafts, their own topics, and creating new ones for which the universities have not even had a path yet defined. Okay. Then the other one is you need to be smart to learn stuff. Well, guess what? IQ, or intellectual quotient, is just one type of intelligence. We have many other ones, and we can also combine those ones. Maybe IQ is fixed, but not emotional intelligence, not physical intelligence, or the way that you perceive your body, and other types of intelligence. Formal education. Well, like I said, if you're going to be an MD, a medical doctor, yeah, go for formal education. But if you are into engineering, entrepreneurship, art, etc., formal education may actually hamper your own progress. So far, how are we doing, guys? Anyone there? No comments? Great. Nice. Okay, let's keep moving on. So, formal education. Then we have talked about myths. Now let's talk about what in the world is meta learning. Meta learning is the process by which a learner becomes aware of how he or she learns and applies constant improvements to it. Constant improvements is kaizen in Japanese. So meta learning is becoming aware of how we learn and tune that process constantly to accelerate the way that we learn, to have higher quality of thoughts, etc. That is meta learning, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, over the last years, guys, I defined a model or a framework that I call the learning cycle, which is composed by by 6 elements, 5 of them in a circle and a bigger one that we will go through. So those ones are consume, consolidate, store, practice, and share. And all of them are ruled by one and only one, which is the mindset. In today's presentation, we will not have enough time to cover all of them, but we will cover 3. I would say the most important ones that can get you actionable knowledge so that you can start practicing this as soon as you leave this meeting. So the first one we'll talk about is consume. The second one is store. And the third one is practice, which combines a little bit of mindset. So let's come on. Let's talk about consume. When I talk about consume, we're talking about how do we ingest information. We're constantly ingesting information through all our senses. Actually, our senses are receptors of information in our environment, whether it's something that we hear, see, touch, experience, the weather or the temperature of the weather, etc. So out of that, there are some questions that we can start asking ourselves every single day for any topic. And that's what I call the 5 W's H, which they stand for what, where, when, who, why, and how. Let's say that you want to learn to speak French. So you can say, what is French in the first place? Where is French spoken? Or where can I speak French here with people wherever I am right now? When can I do it? At what times am I going to do it? When is a good time to use this preposition in French and not this other one? Now that's when we start playing with different sequences or of depths of the topic. Who speaks French? Who speak French in some ways and other people in other ways? Then why is French spoken in this way? Why is it nasal, right? Sometimes, and we can start asking those kind of questions to later find answers for them. And finally, how is the question that takes us mostly from the theoretical to the practical side of any learning topic. Now let's keep moving on. There are formats, like I said, of information consumption. Those are text, whatever that we're reading. For example, in this slide, we have audio, what we're listening, pictures, something that is static and that represents something, video, which is the combination of usually the first three. We have sensations, what we're sensing through our body, I can say, and proximity. We're going to talk about this in a second. Many people forget about proximity, and that's super important. So let's keep moving on. This format can get translated into something that is more useful. In this case, sources. And like I said, every person needs to start learning what is his or her best way of learning and consuming information. Here's a list of sources. The common ones, obviously books, courses, traditional or online courses, YouTube channels, podcasts, or Spotify playlists as well. Local interest groups, that's when it turns more interesting, because now you are relating to other people that may be interested in the same topic. And that is when proximity starts working, because within those groups, you can start finding two types of other sources, which they are mentors and coaches, people that are ahead of where you are from in your path, in your learning path, and they can help you to accelerate that learning. And the closer that you get to them, you will start learning from them, not only from the words that they give you and the advice that they provide, but also you will learn unconsciously how they are getting stuff done. That is through proximity. Finally, other two sources that are many times forgotten about are, first, documentaries. Yes, in any topic that you want, you can find a documentary. And maybe that 1 hour, 1 hour and a half documentary is going to compile, is going to summarize hours of your own learning. Okay? So don't forget about documentaries. And finally, Quora on Reddit. These two websites are even better sources of questions, because once you pose a question, I bet that someone else has already made the same question and you can find the answer in Quora on Reddit. Or if not, if no one made the question, go for it. Someone is going to come and help you find the answer. So those are sources that, as you can see, they combine different formats, and depending on your flavor of preference, you can start consuming them. For example, I'll give you an example from my own case. I love reading books, whether it is digital or physical, I devour them all. But I love reading the ones that are non-science fiction, right? The ones that are hard-coded facts and those kind of personal growth, science, economics, you name it. But I discovered that if I listen to those books on YouTube channels or on podcasts or in audiobooks, I cannot remember them. They do not stick in my mind. But something that I realize is that if I listen to a fiction novel on an audiobook format, that works super well, and I'm making the best of my time management, because I'm consuming those ones while I'm driving, while I'm cooking, while I'm working out. So pick your flavor, start experimenting, and let me know what are your most your preferable formats and sources of information. Okay, let's keep moving on. Let's see if there are any comments. Okay, no questions. Cool. And don't forget that you can make questions right now, or you can find me on my LinkedIn, on my Twitter, on my Instagram later, and ask me questions in Spanish, in English, in any format, in any language, I should say. then, then this is another technique that I wanted to share with you guys. This is called warm up and cool down. And every time that you're about to consume some form of information, something that you want to learn, you can apply these two. So warm up is a set of 3 questions that you can pose. And those ones are, why do I want to learn this? Second one is, how am I going to use what I'm learning? Because if we don't practice it, then it's pointless, right? And then, when am I going to use this? Is it going to be tomorrow, in 1 month, in a decade? Is it worth learning about it right now? That also gives you some context and some decision-making power there. And these 3 questions, what they do is they warm up the mind for the information that is about to come. Okay. This one, by the way, comes from the brain coach, Jim Quick. Check him out. He's super good. And finally, after you have had a learning session, after you have read your book or studied your lesson, you can use the cool down technique. In this call, it is composed by 2 elements. The first one is active recall. Just close your eyes after you have put the book down and ask yourself, what did I learn? And it's okay if you don't get the verbose response to whatever you just recall. Just say it in your own words. That's perfect. That is active recall, and that helps your mind to get that kind of memories into your brain. And finally, celebrate. Yes, get yourself a pat on the back, or go for a cookie or chocolate or whiskey, whatever you want, but celebrate, because that is reinforcing the behavior of learning. That's making learning to become a habit, in other words. So warm up and cool down. How are we going so far, guys? Let's see. Any questions? Any comments? No questions yet. Let us know, guys, where are you joining? What cities are you joining from? I would like to know what parts of the planet are visiting us today. Okay, let's keep moving on. We have reviewed a few items of consumption. Now let's move on to store. Store is another way to say memory, okay? And you will understand why. So in this case, I'm going to use something called the major system. This is a mnemonic technique. Mnemonic means related to the memory. And this is a system that will help you with numbers or dates. So whether you're at school or whether you are at work, you need to remember some facts, some numbers. And it's difficult, especially when you have thousands or several digit numbers that you need to remember, that you can use this system. So what it does is this. You have a digit and a letter, or a consonant sound. So for 0, you have s or z, the consonant sound. For 2 is n, very easy. For 3 is m, right? It's like if you would turn it around, you have 3 as an m. For 4 is an r, and so far until you have 9, which is a p or a p or b sounds. And how do we work with this thing? Well, let's say that you have to remember your ID number, your driver license number, your social security number, any number. What you can do is actually chunk the numbers into 2, 3, or even 4 digits at a time. And once you get them, you can start using this table that I'm showing you here to assign consonants to each one of those numbers. For example, 9 is going to be P, or B. I wanted to get it as P in this case. 2 is N, 5 is L, and 7 is K, 5L, and so on and so forth. Once you have these 3 words, or I wouldn't say even words, but combinations of letters, you can actually start playing around with words, right? So to me, once I got this number, I was thinking about this. To me, these 3 combinations sound like panel, kale, and picture. Okay, that sounds interesting. And now you can start even playing around with these visual images that you're creating in your mind. So, okay, I have a panel that is actually watering, that's helping to water my kale, and I want my kale to be beautiful, to take a picture to post on Instagram, right? So you create an entire story of your ID. So when someone asks you, what's your ID? You will remember, oh, I have a solar panel, which is supposed to get energy to water my kale plants, and I will take a picture. And your mind is going to start decoding from consonants into numbers, and you will say 925759714. Got it? I know it's kind of tricky. It seems that it is it's overworking with memory. Nevertheless, we're better at numbers, we're better with images, and this is a way to translate numbers into consonants, which turn into images. So this is one of the tricks that you can use. This is a very well-known trick. So far, are we good, guys? Good? Okay, nice. Let's keep moving on. Let's check another memory technique, another mnemonic technique, which this one is called FOFI-PAR. This one comes from the memory athlete Ron White, former US memory champion. In this case, we're going to use this technique to remember the name of a person out of an introduction, for example. How many times we have been introduced to a person, and when they say, my name is blah, 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 we immediately forgot it, right? Let me know here in the chat how many of you have had that kind of little problem, and then you feel so bad for not remembering their names. So this is a technique for you. You can use it, like I said, at school, at work, anywhere, social events. That's where I use it the most. I call this FOFI-PAR, and it stands for Focus, File, Picture, Action, Recall. So I have here 5 images, and what we need to do first is focus on their name. Yeah, first things first. When someone says, hi, my name is Brian, you have to be completely focused. Okay, this guy is called Brian. Okay, in your mind, not like me crazily yelling out loud, right? Just in your mind. Then you have file. File is the process where you will find in this person something that is easily to identify, a characteristic in their face, in their body, that makes them very, very easy to spot. Okay, maybe in the case of this guy, it is his chin. He has this very squared chin, which is very easy for you to recognize once you see this guy, right? Then you have picture. Picture is a word or an object or another person that reminds you of the name of this person. In this case, Brian. Brian may sound like brain, for example. Brian, brain. Yeah, it kind of goes like that, right? Or even if you know another Brian, you can get the memory of the Brian that you know here. I will use the word brain in this case. That's going to be my picture. Then you need an action, which means once you have identified this peculiar characteristic in the person's face or body, you're going to use that specific spot with your picture, and something needs to happen between them. The funniest, the ugliest, the dirtiest, the naughtiest, anything in your imagination is great. No one is going to judge, okay? But in this case, for example, this guy has this huge chin, right? What I plan to do is his brain in my mind, there is a brain and he's crushing the brain with his chin. I know this is ridicule. This is ludicrous, right? But that is the point. The easier for you to remember, or it's the easiest for you to remember when you have something that is out of ordinary. You will remember it. You will remember that this guy called Brian was crushing brains with his chin. And you can also apply this later. That's when recall comes handy. Later at night or a few days later, you can say, well, what's the name of that guy with a big chin? What was the chin doing? Oh, yeah, the chin was crushing brains. And that means, oh, Brian. Okay, Brian, brains. Yeah. Hey, Brian, how are you doing? And you have his name. And he's going to feel so good once you call his name a few days later again, like any one of us would. Correct. So that is 4-5 par, this technique that I wanted to share with you from Ron White. Check him out, by the way. He's great. Okay. How are you doing? How are we doing, guys? Questions? No questions yet? Okay, no questions yet. If you have questions, like I said, you can post them here in the chat or let me know on social media later. Okay, let's keep moving on. Now, this is when the things come interesting because we will start combining different memory techniques. In this case, this one is a third one that helps to combine other ones. This one is called the memory palace, and it has been used since the ancient Greek times. In this case, what you do is picture first any place that is very, very easy for you to remember. Your room, your bathroom, your school classroom, any place that is very familiar to you. And if you would close your eyes, you can describe what is inside of this room. So what I want you to do is pick any place and assign just five locations to this place, which means if I close my eyes and I'm seeing this picture that I'm showing you here, I will assign clockwise 5 spots. First, this little table at the beginning. Then second one is going to be the TV. Third is going to be the shelf. Fourth is going to be the tea table or the living room table. And the fifth one is going to be the couch. Those are my 5 ones from this room. Then you can have multiple rooms. Now, once you have that location, that becomes your palace. And in your palace, you're going to store information that is relevant to you. So, for example, if you would like to remember, guess what? Your ID, yeah, you can do this. You can say, I have a solar panel that is watering my kale because I want to take a picture of my beautiful kale. And you assign those elements, relevant elements to you, to this memory palace. And guess what? This is how every single public speaker that is good is using this kind of techniques to remember the entire session where they are going to perform at. Okay, and you can go forward or backwards. It works great. So give it a try and let me know how you like it. Okay, any questions so far? I always forgot names and numbers in a short time. I think that the cause is my focus skills. Okay, Eddie, focus. Just listen to the person, not only with your ears. Listen to the person, even with your eyes. I know that sounds funny. Listen with everything, and it's just a tiny second. So thanks for the comment, Eddie. Now, if you want to learn more about memory experts and other techniques, I invite you to check the interviews that I did to 2 memory experts, Pablo Lomelí from Mexico and Jose Maria Bea from Spain. Great interviews, and I learned so much, and I would like to share that with you, so you can check that out in jjrescas.com. By the way, we're going to have them in UBX soon, by the way, having some conversations with them. So now let's move on into practice. We have covered consume, we have covered store, and now let's move on into practice. There's one thing that we need to be clear about, guys. if anything that you are learning is not being applied immediately or quickly, then you're living into the illusion, you're falling into the illusion of knowledge. We're going to avoid that, and we're going to accelerate that with the way that we practice. First of all, let's review something called the hierarchy of competence. This is a 4-stage competence model designed or described by Marty Broadwell in 1969. He was a trainer who realized that this is the way that mastery works. First, we don't know what we don't know. That is called unconscious incompetence. Then we can start realizing that in any topic that, oh, okay, there are things that I'm doing wrong. Let's say that you want to play the guitar. Initially, you don't know how to play the guitar. Maybe you're just drumming on the guitar, which is not the right way to play the guitar, right? But maybe you were like a kid who didn't know yet, didn't know what didn't know. But then someone taught you, or you learned by yourself that actually you can play the strings, and some strings, some combination of strings give you some notes or some sounds, some chords. Well, sometimes you will fail those chords, and that is when you can realize that you were making something wrong, making some mistakes, which is good because that promoted you to the level of conscious incompetence or wrong analysis, the second level. Now, once you start becoming more aware of how to do the right deliberate practice, then you move into conscious competence. Now, the thing is this, guys, practice requires you to in order to move from conscious to conscious, in order to move from conscious incompetence to conscious competence, it requires you to fail, and to fail a lot. That is where many people stop their learning journey and they give up. They simply give up. In our case, we have ways to troubleshoot that. So this one is called fail. You want to fail, but not in the way that you think. I mean, fail, no one likes to fail. But what happens if we redefine the concept of failure? We all want to fail. Why? Because to fail means to fastly acquire, or the fast acquisition of important lessons. Every time that you think that you failed, think about it. You're fastly acquiring important lessons. And they don't have to be huge failures. You can do micro failures and get feedback quickly to get from unconscious or from conscious incompetence into conscious competence. That is the gap that we want to close and move to the next level as quickly as possible. This is where the next concept comes handy, which is calibration feedback. Think about this. Every time that you had a test at school, maybe it was by the end of your semester or your class, 3-4 months after the moment that you started, right? Well, that was 4 months where you didn't know if you were doing it good or not. In this case, we want to accelerate that, because if it took you 6 months or 1 year to get feedback on the thing that you were doing wrong, that is lagging time in feedback, in precious feedback. You have wasted time. But if you have calibration feedback initially here with micro failures, because now you know that fail is fast acquisition of important lessons, then you can correct course quickly and therefore improve quickly as well. Calibration feedback. Once you know what is wrong and what is right, and you start doing what is right more often, then you need to move into internalization of knowledge, or what is called habit creation. That means that if you know how to play, for example, the chord in the guitar, and it was taking you all your attention and effort, at some point it becomes second nature, right? And that is when you have internalized it and you can play even a complete song without even seeing your hands what they are doing. That is when you moved from conscious competence into unconscious competence. And that saves you a lot of energy and focus that you will use later for new topic to learn. Okay. So far, how are we going, guys? How are we doing? Okay, I have 2 comments here. Can I learn an abstract comment example, mathematics equations using memory palace, not just applied to memory? Actually, yes. Something that I recall that um, Richard Feynman used to do, Eddie, is he used to learn different models to solve equations in his brain. He had like heuristics, and I bet that he was using some kind of memory palace to store them all and easily, quickly find which one he wanted to get out of his toolkit and use it. So yes, you can use that, and you can use even what I would say is parts of equations. You can use them to store in your memory palace to later reuse them. I usually do that sometimes when I don't have my notepad or a phone with me. I can store them in my pad to later recall and use. Okay, let's keep moving on. Okay, so all of this, guys, brings us to this key point, which is this. We have seen the learning cycle, the different 5 elements, and the mindset that covers them all. Like I said, practice, we talked about practice and also mindset. But the wheel per se, or the cycle, does not roll itself. We need something to start kicking the wheel of the learning cycle, and that is curiosity. And I invite you to start fueling your curiosity so that the rest of the cycle is going to roll in your favor. It's going to take you to own your personal growth. That is where curiosity acts as a fuel for our personal progress. Don't be afraid of making questions to anyone or even to your devices. You will get the answers. And that is where true learning starts. So, guys, this was a very quick introduction to meta learning. We dove into some of the most common techniques for consume, store, and practice, but there are many more in those 3 and in the rest of the learning cycle. And if you want to keep doing this, I invite you to do it today. So let me ask you this: what is something that you would like to start learning today? Let's type on the chat window, please. What is a topic that you would like to learn that you have been procrastinating for months, weeks, years to learn? Let me know, what's your new learning topic? What are you curious about? Let's see, any topics there? Do you want to learn a language? Do you want to learn math equations or how to solve math equations? Or do you want to learn how to play an instrument? Or you want to learn something more abstract, like what is religion, like Buddhism or Catholicism? What's it that you want to learn? Pablo says sales prospecting. Okay, cool. Nice. Now you can start with the sources, finding your sources, finding or using the warm up and cool down techniques, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, nice. Let me know, guys, if you have questions. And before we finish, here it is. If you want to learn more and better, check out the Spanish version of the 14-day program that we have on UBX Academy, where we will cover way more of the topics that we have discussed today. This one, you can find it at ubx.academy/HTA, because it stands for Hackea tu Aprendizaje. This is the Spanish version of the program. And also, if you would like to do this in English, we are very interested in your opinion. So we would like to know if you want to sign up for a waiting list, and we would like to know your opinion in this survey, UBX Academy/survey. That is where we're collecting information to know if people are interested in having an English version of a 14-day program where every day you will start forging the learning habit one day at a time, and we'll have coaching calls, and you will have also learning body, and your learning topic, the one that you just picked that you wanted to learn, you can take that one to go with us in this cohort, very small cohort that we can do. Spanish, like I said, August the 23rd, 2 more weeks or less than 2 weeks. And if you're interested in the English version, just drop us a line at ubx.academy/survey, or send us a message to any of our social media links there. So I think we are good to go. If there are no questions, let's give 1 more minute to questions while I get a sip of water. And otherwise, we're good to go. Nice. Okay, guys, it was my pleasure to share this information with you, and we'll see you online soon. See you guys.